wanted to get on here and talk about like those odd conversations or odd things we've encountered as witches. The most recent, within the last like 5 years or something, a weird conversation I had was a friend coworker of mine when I worked at an old job introduced me to one of her friends who's a witch or a pagan. I don't remember what term she uses. And she asked me what kind of witch I was, and I just looked at her funny, and I was like, the magical practicing kind? You know, the question kind of threw me off. And so she backpedaled and clarified, no, you know, what path are you on? You know, she was Norse or something. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, what path do I walk? What pantheon do I follow? Which, you know, sometimes you have to clarify more specifically what you're asking, because the what type of witch are you does get a little general, a little too broad.
Are you a good witch
or
a bad witch?
Chessie's just like, I'm a sleepy dog. I'm a sleepy dog. What about you?
So the only weird occurrences I've had talking to people is I've been outed several times out of the blue. Like, there's no provocation to it whatsoever. It's just people have said, you know, that kind
of... yeah, like, or a friend, like, finds out and somehow in a group conversation something happens and they're like, oh, by the way, this person's a witch or something, and it's like, dude, you don't do that. Like, it's kind of rude. Yeah. Like, if I want people to know, I'll tell them.
And it, especially with me, the first time it happened was back when I was working for the county. One of the other people I was working with, who just so happened to be Jewish, there might be a connection. Some people of the Jewish faith are also mystics, not necessarily Wiccan, pagan, but they have their own magical tradition and are also magically touched. I will put it that way.
That's with like any religion, you get the magically touched. I use that term with air quotations because, like, that's the, you know, for a lack of a better term, I guess.
And trying not to sound prejudiced, hateful of any.
It's like you get certain Christian, or like within some of the Christian faiths, Baptist, Methodist, whatever, you do get the ones who get messages from angels, or certain people who are psychics or mediums or whatever, and they are of a Christian belief or are Jewish or of some religion. So, you know, not all mediums, not all psychics, not all touched, blessed. Not all magically blessed are witches, pagans, Wiccans. We can be, those who are touched with whatever gift, can be of any religion, any belief system. You know, your faith has nothing to do with it. It's what you do with that gift that makes you good or bad. That was kind of... Anyway, so...
A little bit of a tangent, but anyway, just out of the blue, we were sitting down having lunch. Another coworker got on the topic of Wicca, but it was not like a religious discussion. It was... So, okay. How to explain this? In the 90s, there was this fad of looking into the craft, because the movie had just come out and everybody was like, ooh, I want to be different and rebellious. I will study witchcraft. And so we kind of got on this discussion of, did you do this kind of thing in high school and whatever? And one of my other coworkers had said that she dabbled, but it was more of just like because everybody else did it. And then this guy just pointed to me, and I wasn't wearing anything that, said witch, Wicca, whatever. I wasn't wearing a pentagram or anything, I don't think. And he just said, "You're a witch."
Those encounters get a little weird, especially if it's like, if you don't have any outward signifier, or you haven't discussed it because, like, it's a new job or it's people you don't know, and so you're not really sure about, discussing certain things, and they look at you and they're like, "You practice this, don't you?" And it's just like, do I have a certain aura, or do I have something that, witch crossed my forehead, or,
right.
Is there something we all have in common unconsciously that we don't really realize? But whatever. It gets a little weird. Although the most bizarre one I had was, again, a previous job I had when I worked with a couple people who were, like, beginning the path of witchcraft. A Jewish friend, and we just happened to be discussing religion for one reason or another, comparing, contrasting, whatever. And so a manager called me into the office, and essentially what had happened was, like, this group of older ladies sitting at the table behind us happened to overhear us and get it in their head and convince themselves that those of us who are witches were essentially cursing them and putting hexes on them. And went to management about it, and they were like, "I don't know if you believe in this or not." And I looked at them and I was like, "I don't know if you believe God is real or the Bible is the truth, but that's religious persecution. So what is this about?" And they were like, "Apparently some people think you're putting curses on them." I'm like, if I did, they wouldn't be able to know it was me. Talking about religion does not mean I'm putting a curse on people. And it's a waste of time to put a curse on someone who I don't give a time of day thought to or talk to. Like, I'm going to waste my energy on something more important. Not just a group of old biddies who have nothing else better to do than complain. What about you?
The best conversation I've ever had about religion, and that sounds like a really odd sentence, because there are two things you don't discuss:
Politics
religion and politics. Was sitting down and talking to my religion professor at school.
Although religion's getting more common to discuss nowadays, politics is still very iffy. But so your religious professor.
Remember Paul at St. Leo? He was Southern Baptist or Methodist. I think it was actually Methodist, but he wasn't a Southern guy like Kentucky. And through the course of, taking a couple classes that were required because of the school I went to, we just became good friends. And one day we just sat down and compared notes, essentially. And it was a really good discussion because there was no hate one way or the other. We both came at it from a point of curiosity. And just, what do you think about this kind of deal? It was good.
Now, here's I guess it's odd, but it's not really odd, because, within different religions, there are different spirits of sorts. Like, within Christianity, there's angels, there's fairies and elves and stuff. Do you believe in the Christian concept of angels?
Me personally?
Yes.
No.
So you don't believe that there's the archangels and Michael and Gabriel in them?
I do believe in celestial beings that could be angelic, like your typical I'm a human with wings picture.
Not like the supernatural version of them, or like if you go to a church and you see them painted on the ceilings and stuff, but like angels as in a messengers of God of sorts. That, you know, they could come down and talk to us in one way or another.
Honest answer, I don't know. At the moment, that's a no. At the moment, it's a no. I do believe in a celestial entity that, you know, you can converse with, just like there are dragons and such.
So essentially, that question's leading into this. So we met in a church choir. Yes, that's funny, haha. Two pagans meet in a Christian setting. There's a whole backstory to that I'm not getting into right now. But anyway, so essentially, you know, we had gone to the choir director's Southern Baptist. We had gone to the church and performed in the church she grew up in. Now, the question I was asking, if you believe the Christian variant of angels exists, is because while in that church, the Christian equivalent to angels, essentially, you know, we've had this love-hate relationship. Like, it's not vicious or anything. It's just like one of those, if you watch Supernatural, Gabriel is the trickster. It's one of those, they mess with me, I mess with them kind of deal. Although I think I pissed one of them off and they won't talk to me, which is fine by me. So, you know, just because we're witches doesn't mean the Christian or the Jewish faith system in their angels or celestial beings don't exist and we can't commune with them. We might call them something else. So, you know, it's, if you follow history, you know, the Celtic pantheons, a lot of their deities were given sainthood to essentially convert the heathens to Christianity. So that's a whole nother topic. But, you know, so it's not that far-fetched to say, okay, the Christian idea of an angel could have come from anywhere, and they just Christianized it, in a sense, which happened when you go from one religion to the other, and a religion takes over. They essentially Christianize it or convert it to their religion and apply it to their religion. So